Nobody warned me about the silence. People talk about the lawyers and they talk about all the paperwork and they talk about the finances. They talk about the divorce itself, but nobody really talks about what happens after everything gets quiet. And for me, that was when the hardest part started, because after divorce, it's not just one moment of silence, it's all of it. You wake up alone, you go to bed alone, you eat alone, you drive everywhere now alone, you sit with your thoughts all alone. And when you've spent years sharing your life with someone, that kind of silence can mess with your head. Not because silence is bad, but because you're suddenly alone with thoughts you've been avoiding. For years, I had somebody there, somebody who knew me, somebody I could talk to, somebody I could lean on emotionally. Then one day, that was gone. And I found myself having conversations with nobody but myself. I hadn't been alone on my own thoughts for so many years, and suddenly I couldn't escape them. And I remember living in an RV for a period of time after my divorce. I was grateful to have a place to stay. It had everything I needed, but it wasn't my home. Just a few years earlier, I'd been living in a 5,000 square foot house with a swimming pool, and now I'm sitting alone in an RV with nothing but my thoughts. And that's when the silence really hit me. Not because I was living in an RV, but because I realized how much of my life had changed. The house, yeah, that was gone. The marriage had long ended and it was gone. The future I thought I had been building all those years, it was totally gone. And there was nowhere left to run from that reality. It was just me and my thoughts. And that's when the silence, it really started to get loud. And because silence doesn't stay silent for very long, it starts asking you questions. Questions that you don't want to answer. Questions like, what could I have done differently? How did I fail at this? What am I without this relationship? And then your mind starts moving into the future. What does my life look like now? And will I ever be happy again? Those thoughts don't just come once. They come over and over and over again, day after day and night after night. And if you're not careful, you can get trapped there. I know I did. I spent a lot of time replaying the past, a lot of time carrying guilt, a lot of time carrying anger, and a lot of time surely carrying a load of regret. And none of it changed anything. The silence became a courtroom inside of my head. Every day I was putting myself on trial, judging myself, second guessing myself, trying to rewrite things that had already happened. But no matter how many times I replayed it, the outcome, it never changed. The marriage, it was over, and eventually I had to accept that. Now here's something I learned. The silence itself, it's not the problem. The problem is what the silence forces you to face. Because when everything gets quiet, you finally have to confront the things you've been trying to avoid. Your pain, your fear, your loneliness in the future, your uncertainty of where things are gonna go. And that is so uncomfortable at times to face. Very, very uncomfortable, which is why so many of us try to escape it. We stay busy, we drink, we distract ourselves, we jump into new relationships too quickly. Anything to avoid being alone with our own thoughts. But eventually, those thoughts catch up to you. They always do. And that's when I realized something. The silence wasn't my enemy. It was trying to teach me something. It was showing me all of the places in my life that had needed healing. Now that doesn't mean I suddenly enjoyed being alone. I surely did not. And it didn't change overnight. It took time. It took a lot of time actually. But little by little, I started rebuilding my mind. I leaned into my faith, and for the first time in a long time, I actually meant it. I started exercising again, not because I wanted to look better, because I needed somewhere to put everything that I was carrying. I started being more intentional about who I spent my time with, less time with the people who just wanted to escape, more time with the people who actually wanted something better. And slowly, I started learning how to be alone without feeling destroyed by it. That was hard, really, really hard, but it was necessary because I couldn't spend the rest of my life waiting for somebody else to make me whole again. I had to learn how to live my life. I had to learn how to enjoy my own company. I had to learn how to create purpose for myself again. And something interesting happened. The silence started changing. It wasn't as loud anymore. It wasn't nearly as painful anymore. Not because it just magically disappeared, but because I was building a life around it. The more purpose I had, the less power the silence had. The more routine I built, the more faith I developed, the less power that the silence had over me. The more I focused on becoming a better man, the less power the silence had. Eventually, the silence stopped feeling like punishment, and it started feeling like peace. And I'm not going to tell you exactly when that shift happened. I couldn't pinpoint it if I tried. But one day, I noticed the quiet didn't feel like it was crushing me anymore. It just felt like my life. And if you're going through a divorce right now, that's what I want you to know. The silence you're feeling isn't permanent. It feels overwhelming right now, and it surely might feel super heavy on you right now. It feels like it's never going to end, but it won't stay that way forever. One day, you'll wake up and realize the silence, it's not hurting you anymore. One day, you'll realize you've built a life around it. One day, you'll realize you became stronger because of it. The silence after a divorce, it will mess with your head, at least for a while, but if you're willing to face it instead of run from it, it can also be the thing that helps you rebuild your life.